In the previous episode, we watched the final breath of Kim Jong-nam, the estranged brother of North Korea's leader, collapse in an airport clinic after a deadly prank turned assassination, a drop of VX, a hidden camera illusion, and a regime's message written in poison. Welcome to the red pages of history, where power is never gentle and betrayal is always personal. Now, we travel back more than 2,000 years. The year is 227 BCE. The land is fractured, 7 warring states, each clawing for dominance. And in the east, one king rises above the rest, King Zheng of Qin, a ruler with ambition so vast it will one day reshape the map and give birth to the name China. But before he becomes emperor, before his name echoes through centuries as Qin Shi Huang, one man steps into his palace with a scroll in hand and a dagger hidden within. His name is Jing Ke, a swordsman, a scholar, a man of sorrow, and today he has come not to negotiate, but to kill. The guards stand silent. The hall is vast. The king leans forward to examine the map, and in that breathless moment, history holds its breath. He was not born a killer. Jing Ke was a scholar, a swordsman, and a man of quiet sorrow. He came from the state of Wei, one of the many fractured kingdoms during China's warring states period. Known for his intelligence and calm demeanor, Jing Ke wandered between courts, studying philosophy, swordsmanship, and the art of survival in a world ruled by chaos. He was not driven by greed or ambition. He was a man of principle, loyal to friends, respectful of tradition, and deeply aware of the cost of violence. But destiny found him in the court of Prince Dan of Yan, a desperate ruler watching his kingdom crumble under the shadow of Qin. Prince Dan had one goal: stop the rise of King Zheng of Qin, the young monarch who was swallowing the map of China piece by piece. And for that, he needed a weapon, not an army, a man. Jing Ke accepted the mission, not for glory, not for gold, but for loyalty to a prince who believed that one blade in the right hands could change the course of history. The plan was bold. Jing Ke would pose as an envoy, bearing gifts of surrender, including the head of a defected Qin general and a map of a contested territory. Inside that rolled-up map, hidden in the folds of parchment, would be a dagger. And when the king leaned in to inspect the tribute, Jing Ke would strike. But to understand the weight of this mission, we need to understand the man he was sent to kill. King Zheng of Qin was no ordinary ruler. Born in 259 BCE in the rival state of Zhao, his early life was shaped by betrayal, scandal, and survival. His father was a political hostage. His mother, once the concubine of a powerful merchant, became entangled in court intrigue. As a child, Zheng lived under constant threat, watched by enemies, protected only by the shifting loyalties of the elite. When his father escaped back to Qin, Zheng and his mother remained behind, vulnerable and alone. At just 13 years old, Zheng became king of Qin. At first he ruled through regents, most notably Lu Bue, the merchant who had helped his father rise to power. But Zheng quickly seized control, purging the court of rivals, executing his mother's lover, and consolidating power with ruthless efficiency. He was cold, calculating, obsessed with order. Between 230 and 222 BCE, he crushed the 6 remaining states, Han, Zhao, Wei, Chu, Yan, and Qi, one by one. He standardized currency, weights, and the written script. He connected and fortified the northern walls, the foundation of what would become the Great Wall of China. He burned books that challenged his rule. He buried scholars alive. And in 221 BCE, he declared himself Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. But in 227 BCE, He was still just King Zheng, still vulnerable, still mortal, and Jing Ke was on his way. The palace of Qin was vast, silent, and cold. Columns soared like stone giants, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Guards stood motionless, their armor gleaming, their eyes trained forward, but none dared move. Not today. Jing Ke stepped into the hall with slow, deliberate steps. His robes were ceremonial, his posture respectful, but his heart beat like a war drum beneath the silk. Beside him, his companion carried a lacquered box. Inside, the severed head of General Fan Yuki, a traitor to Qin. And in Jing Ke's hands, rolled tightly, was the map of Dukang, a gift of surrender. Or so it seemed. At the far end of the hall, seated on a raised platform, was King Zheng, young, sharp-eyed, and already feared across the fractured lands of China. He leaned forward, intrigued, a rare moment of vulnerability. Jing Ke bowed deeply. The king gestured for him to approach. The guards did not move. This was a diplomatic ritual, sacred, formal, untouchable. Jing Ke stepped closer. He unrolled the map slowly, his fingers steady, his breath shallow. The parchment crackled. The king leaned in, and then the dagger, hidden within the folds, cold, silent, deadly. Jing Ke lunged. The blade flashed in the light, slicing the air toward the king's chest. But King Zheng was fast. He leapt back, knocking over his stool, robes whipping around him. He screamed for his sword, but it was ceremonial, too long, too heavy, hanging from his waist. He ran around the column. Jing Ke chased him, blade outstretched, face calm, eyes locked. The king fumbled with his sword, finally drawing it with trembling hands. He turned and struck. The blade tore into Jing Ke's thigh. He staggered, blood blooming across his robes. But he did not fall. He laughed, a bitter, broken laugh, and hurled the dagger toward the king. It missed, clattered to the floor. The guards rushed in. Jing Ke collapsed. The hall fell silent. The king stood, panting, blood on his hands, eyes wide with fury. Jing Ke lay dying, his mission failed, but his name etched forever into the stone of history. Jing Ke lay bleeding on the palace floor. His mission had failed, the dagger had missed, and the man he came to kill, King Zheng, now stood above him, sword in hand, victorious. But in that moment, something deeper echoed through the marble halls. This was not just the death of a man, it was the death of resistance. Jing Ke had not come as a soldier, he came as a symbol of defiance, of loyalty, of the last flicker of hope for the smaller states that still clung to independence. And now, that flicker was gone. King Zheng would go on to conquer the remaining kingdoms. He would unify China under one banner. He would become Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. He would build roads, walls, and tombs that would last for millennia, and he would rule with fear, fire, and silence. But he would never forget the man who came within inches of ending it all. The man who walked into his palace with a scroll and a blade. The man who failed, but whose name would live forever. Jing Ke, the assassin who almost changed history. If this story moved you, subscribe to the Red Pages of History and join us as we uncover the secrets, betrayals, and forgotten moments that shaped our world. Because every empire begins with a blade and ends with a whisper.